Chapter 11. Richard Reichart. He answered within a few seconds. "Hello," he said quietly. "I tried to call you back a couple of times." "I know," I said. "I'm sorry. It didn't seem right to talk to you. I'm working for Adam Lang. Don't tell me your name," he said quickly. "Don't use any names. Where did you find my telephone number?" "On the back of a photograph," I said. "The person who was doing my job before me had it." "Did he?" said Reichart, sounding shocked. "I've been to see one of the people in the photograph. Perhaps you can help me." "Where are you now?" he asked. "In New England," I replied. "You know which city I'm in, don't you?" he said. "Yes." "Get the first plane that you can. Flying is safer than driving," he told me. "I'll get someone to meet you when you arrive." It was late afternoon when I parked the car at Boston's Logan Airport. My telephone rang. It was Ruth. "What do you think you're doing?" she said angrily. "You're not at your hotel." "I decided to go to New York," I said, "to see John Maddox about the book, now that things have changed." "I was worried about you. Adam's still in Washington, as far as I know," she said. "He keeps calling me, but I don't answer the phone. When will you be back?" "I'm not sure," I said. "Maybe tonight?" She didn't say goodbye. New York's LaGuardia Airport was busy. I couldn't see Reichart or anyone that I recognized. But then I was shocked to see a man holding a piece of paper with the name Michael Macara on it. He was in his 50s and was tall with dark hair. I followed him to his car. We drove out of the airport and within minutes stopped outside a big hotel near Grand Central Parkway. "If you need to call, use this," he said, giving me a new mobile phone. "Turn your old phone off and pay for your hotel room with cash. You're staying one night." He gave me a small piece of paper. "This is the name you should use and the telephone number you can call us on. Give the hotel an address in England, but not your own. Don't use the internet and don't speak to anyone you don't know, especially any attractive women who show interest in you." "You sound like my mother," I said. Once I was inside the hotel, I checked the name on the piece of paper. Clive Dixon. "You have a room for me?" I said to the hotel clerk. "My name's Dixon." My room was on the 6th floor, with a view across Grand Central Parkway to LaGuardia and the East River. 20 minutes later, my new mobile phone rang. "It's me," said Reichart when I answered it. "Are you alone?" "Yes," I answered. "Open the door," he said. He was waiting in the corridor outside my room with my driver from LaGuardia. "Okay, Frank," he said to the other man. "Go and wait in the lobby." Frank went away and Reichart walked into my room. "So, how long have you been working for Lang?" he asked. "Since Monday," I replied. "Then you probably know him as well as anyone," he said, and laughed. "I worked with him for 15 years, but never really knew him. Macara didn't either. Let's sit down." There were 2 small, comfortable chairs, and Reichart sat opposite me. "You know who I am," said Reichart. "So who are you?" "I'm a ghostwriter," I said. "I was hired to rewrite Adam Lang's memoirs after Macara died." "You mentioned a photograph. Can I see it?" he asked. When he saw the envelope, he got quite excited. Then I showed him the photograph. "Is that it?" he said. He looked disappointed. "Why is your telephone number on the back?" I asked. He looked at me for several moments before saying, "Why should I help you?" "Why should I help you?" I answered. We stared at each other. Then he smiled. "You should have been a politician," he said. He started walking up and down in front of the bed. "Everything done in this war on terror is illegal under international law. Iraq, torture, Guantanamo," he said. "But proving it needs evidence, and I've been looking for that evidence for years. Suddenly, just before Christmas, it came through the post. No letter with it. Just a top-secret memorandum from the Prime Minister to the Secretary of State for Defense. It was a clear order from the Prime Minister to the Special Armed Forces to kidnap those 4 men in Pakistan and give them to the CIA. A war crime, I said. A war crime, he agreed. So I took it to the ICC. Who sent it to you? I asked. At first I didn't know. Then Makara phoned me. Hello, Richard, he said. Did you get the present that I sent you? I quickly stopped him talking because the phone was bugged. I work at the United Nations and all their phones are bugged. I gave him a new telephone number that I'd not used before and told him to phone me again. And what did he tell you? I asked. He said that he'd been doing research in Cambridge for Adam's memoirs, said Reichardt. He'd found the memorandum about Operation Tempest, but also something much more important. Something that explained everything that went wrong while Lang was Prime Minister. What was it? I asked, suddenly excited. He wouldn't tell me on the phone, said Reichardt. He wanted to meet me, but he did say that the answer could be found in Lang's autobiography if anyone checked carefully. He said that it was all there in the beginning. He sounded very depressed. He told me that he'd call me in a day or two to arrange a meeting, but about a week later, I heard that he was dead. He was depressed because he'd just discovered that one of the men in that photograph was an officer in the CIA, I said. What? Said Reichardt. His name is Paul Emmett, I said. He was a professor at Harvard, and then he became the president of something called the Arcadia Institution. Have you heard of it? Yes, he said, and I've always thought the CIA were involved with it. But would someone join the CIA and then immediately be sent to do research at a university in England? I asked. It's very possible, he replied. It's a good place to look for future politicians or even prime ministers. Show me the photograph again. Which one is Emmett? I pointed to Emmett and said, I got the information from an internet website, so it may or may not be true. Apparently, he joined the CIA after he left Yale University. That's about 3 years earlier than this photograph. Could it be true? Oh yes, I can believe it, said Reichardt. What's suspicious is that he knew Lang. No, what's really suspicious is that only hours after Makara found Emmett at his house near Boston, Makara was found dead on a beach in Martha's Vineyard, I said. After that, I told him everything I'd discovered and how I'd discovered it. And the more I talked, the more excited Reichardt became. Maybe it was Emmett who suggested to Lang that he should make a career of politics, he said. What year did Lang join the party? 1975, I told him. 1975? He said excitedly. Do you remember Sir Reginald Giffen? I think so, I answered. He's dead now, said Reichardt. But he was an MP who was always making speeches supporting the Americans. When he suddenly retired, everyone was surprised, except a young party member who had moved into Giffen's constituency 6 months earlier, and became the party's candidate and won one of the safest parliamentary seats in the country when he was only 30. Adam Lang, I said. Are you really saying that the CIA asked Giffen to retire to help Lang get into Parliament? Listen, he said. I was already in Parliament and I watched just how fast Lang became party leader. Of course, he had help. Tell me one thing he did as Prime Minister that Washington and the US government wouldn't have approved of. Quite the opposite. He did everything to support them, even when it made enemies for us in other parts of the world. And more than that, he sacked any minister who didn't agree with his support of the United States. People like me. He paused, then went on. But all of this is understandable if he was working for the CIA. The question is, what are we going to do about it? We don't have any proof, I said. We can't be sure that Emmett was in the CIA or that he persuaded Lang to join. You'll just have to get some proof, Reichardt told me. Lang lets you ask him questions, right? Okay, We'll write some questions to get him to say something that makes him look guilty. Then you'll have it all on the recordings." "But the recordings belong to him, not me," I told him. "The War Crimes Court can legally ask for them," he said. I didn't like this. I didn't want to become involved in a war crimes trial. "Maybe I won't make any recordings," I said. "Maybe I'll say I didn't know anything about all this. Then I'll give the court a recording of this conversation." He opened his jacket to show me a small microphone on the front of his shirt with a wire going into the inside pocket of his jacket. "Frank is recording every word down in the lobby," he said. "Oh, don't look so shocked. Did you think that I'd come to a meeting with a stranger without recording everything that was said? A stranger who's working for Lang?" He smiled. "But you aren't working for Lang anymore. You're working for me."